Yes.
I'm so sad to share the screen because I cannot see the faces anymore if I share the screen. So I don't want to, but I guess I will. So I can have like the fancy message of what to do while waiting. Oops. What screen am I sharing? Am I sharing Chiara's mentor group session 2?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Let me see how to. Hello, Jewels. Yeah, while we're waiting like 3 more minutes, would love for you to put in the chat. Browse your recent notes if you have one already, an app. What's one interesting idea you encountered recently? Share with us. It's so quiet. I really should do that music thing.
Hi, Chiara. This is Fritz. I'm just running in from a meeting, so sorry. Hello, everybody.
Hello, thanks for saying hi. I will share. So I decided to. Should I start? Yeah, decided not to make any slides, and instead, since a lot of people here are really curious about craft, I decided to do my quote unquote presentation via craft. And here is the document I will be working through for today. Yeah, I guess we can start. Um, okay, so Yes, thank you, Claudia and Jamie, for co-hosting this session. Please let me know if there are interesting stuff happening in the chat. Yeah, okay. So before we start, I have some preamble from the messages in Circle. I've gotten, I know many people want to see the ins and outs of craft from my sessions, and I'm super happy to answer specific questions. Craft, by the way, is my notes app. This is what we're looking at right now. Um, I I could have done a session specifically on that, uh, but I decided not to because I feel like I have more fundamental second brain, not craft specific ideas to share. And you can tell me at the end of the session if they are actually important. Another thing that people kind of want me to show is Zettelkasten and Para. I feel like it is too advanced, and even for me, because I honestly don't have a good Zettelkasten practice. I believe Zettelkasten is more about working and thinking and writing habits more than tools. So I can show you my baby Zettelkasten notebook. It's not much to uh, see, but I decided not to like focus on that. That is my preamble. Um, all right, onto the agenda. Uh, yeah, I think I have three ideas I wanted to share with you. They're all related to para because this is week 2. Like in the code, week 1 was capture, week 2 is organize, which is all about organizing your notes into projects, areas, resources, and archives. Um, so I want to share those three ideas. Then want to go into a breakout room and actually, again, like last session, discuss, not only discuss with people, but actually implement something in your second brain. If you attended Tiago's session and then a few mentor sessions over the week, and then my session, I'm sure you have some things you want to implement, and I wanted to create time and space today for you to do that. And then after that, I'm happy to hang out like 15 to 30 minutes and like just chat and chill and answer questions and so on. Okay, so let me get into it. Okay, for the people that just arrived, I will share again the notes that I will work through. So it also gives you an opportunity to check out craft. So that's like kind of my trick. All right, so first thing, yeah, para, how I implement para. Um, so I wear 3 main hats. I'm a full-time product manager for a company called Giant Swarm. I'm an online course creator. I teach a course on job hunting abroad, um, and and then my personal stuff, which is like mentoring and building a second brain and writing a blog and stuff like this. So those are my 3 hats. And so how do I implement Para? So the app you're looking at right now, it's Craft. It's what I use for my personal notes. Okay, let me start over. So like I think about Para mostly via tasks and notes. So for my tasks, like in my projects list, I use things 3. I can quickly show you my super messy to-do list with 1 million things overdue. This is my things. You can see like all my projects and areas are in things, and I separate them. I separate them via like my 3 hats: Giant Swarm, Gen Propel, and Personal. That is because when I sit down to work, like there are 3 time horizons when I work. In the morning, like 7 a.m., I work on my personal projects. I drag this up and I kind of pick like prioritize like this what I'm gonna work on for the day. That's why it's super helpful to see just the personal projects, because when I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning, I'm not gonna work on Giant Swarm stuff. But then when I like start the working day at 9 a.m., I'm like looking at my Giant Swarm projects and like prioritizing like that. So that's why for me, it's super helpful to have like these separate projects and areas for my 3 hats. Anyway, the point is for my tasks, I use things 3. Everything is there. Uh, all my tasks are here. All my projects are here. I know what all my projects are. I just untoggle all of this. And these are all the projects that I am involved in right now. For my notes, I use Craft, like I said, for personal, and I'm happy to tour you after like some time. But notably, I decided to separate my notes from my 2 other hats. Like for Giant Swarm, it's in Google Docs because for collaboration purposes, that's where the rest of the company is. And I tried super hard to have like para in Craft as well. And I'm like, okay, I'll start in Craft. And then later when I need to collaborate, I'll copy and paste into Google Docs. It was a mess. It was super hard. I could never find anything. So I'm like, okay, Giant Swarm, I'm just gonna do, everything will be in Google Docs. But I have like a temp folder where, because it's still super easy for me to pull up Craft. So I have a temp folder where I put stuff here, but then I try to remove that as fast as possible and move it to Google Docs. I don't want to set up a para for Giant Swarm in Craft. And then for Gen Propel, my online course, that is in Notion. I'm really no Notion expert, so I won't show you my Notion. Yeah, that's actually my para in Craft and Things 3. And then brief. Okay, let me pause here and like ask like any questions so far. Does it make sense? Are you curious about anything? Want to put it in the chat?
We have a question from Ritesh. What's your quick capture process in view of the daily notes concept?
My quick capture is I do option space and open Craft and then Command N to create a note. It's not, there's no universal like in things like this, there's nothing yet like that for Craft. So I just open Craft and create a new note via Command N. Yeah, for me it was easier to enter quick notes too. Does Craft sync across devices? Yeah, Francesco. Right now, they're only Mac and iOS, but it does sync across devices. And that's one of the reasons I moved from Obsidian to Craft, because Obsidian, you had to do all kinds of hacks to make it sync with the phone, and I didn't like that. And they're currently working on a web app to be able to be accessible to non-Apple devices. Please describe relation between Craft and Notion in your work. Melvin? Yeah, so I guess let me pull Notion up quickly. There's almost no relation actually between Craft and Notion. Their main connection, and this is like similar to how Tiago does it. I have one projects list, which is in Things. And the notes for my personal projects, they are in Craft. And my notes for Gen Propel, they are in Notion. That's how they are related. But between Craft and Notion, I only have this temporary folder where I quick capture in Craft, and then try to quickly move the GenPropel stuff to Notion. Does that answer your question? Okay, I think those are all the questions so far, Claudia.
Yes, I don't see any.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, so that is my para. And the second idea I wanted to share is I don't know if it's like obvious and simple, but for me it was kind of transformative. And that is like, this is like one way para really like kind of changed my life. And that is the idea that like we have lots and lots of ideas and problems and goals and like these intangible things that we want to do or solve. And I realized through para that there are really only two ways to turn ideas and problems into actions and results in our lives. And that is either by turning it into a project or by turning it into an area or creating a habit. So, for example, someone asked in circle, like, yeah, I discovered Michael Tomasello. I don't know who that is. But then he like really dug, like opened lots of tabs, like really curious about this person. And he wanted to engage deeper into this person. And his question was, how do you get a deeper level of engagement, like with a really, it's a resource because you're just curious, but you want to engage more with these ideas, and you want to give yourself some accountability on like engaging and processing those ideas beyond consumption, and you kind of want to feel some sense, like he says here, some sense of completeness when you've processed enough. And my answer to this is to turn it into a project. And one thing I really like to do, but it's very dangerous because it could like make you add a lot of obligations to your life. But what I like to do when I really want to engage with a person's ideas is I turn it into a project. For example, at some point, I got really interested in Jay Abraham. He's like this old school business person before these online business people became hot. Uh, and I said, he's like 10 books, and like he has like a website with 100 links, so many. And I thought like, okay, how could I engage more with these ideas? And I said, I want to create, turn it into a project. And I said, okay, I will write an epic post. It's gonna be called "The Best of J. Abraham," and I kind of just, that's my filter. This project is my filter for learning about J. Abraham beyond just consuming tons and tons of information. I hope that makes sense. And then the other way to turn ideas and problems into actions and results in your life is, well, install a habit, which is like basically like an area of responsibility. I show here a picture of Strides. It's my habit tracker, but that's not really important. But okay, the main point is it's just transformative to me to think like when I have an idea and I want it to be like more concrete in my life, I think about how do I turn this into a project or how do I turn it into a habit. Yeah, and then just one note here, this is how I think about B goals. If you've encountered this concept of like there are only 3 types of goals: to have, to be, and to have, to do, and to be. Like have, I don't know, X amount of money, new gadget, car, whatever. To go travel wherever. And then B is like this more nebulous goals, like I want to be a writer or be a product manager or be an expert on X, Y, and Z. And it's really hard to turn those big goals into concrete things. And I found it super helpful to turn them into either projects or habits / areas. So for example, I wanted to be fluent in German. I turned that into a project, which is like complete the Goethe B1 exam. I did complete it. Unfortunately, I'm still not fluent in German, so maybe not such a good project, but it did move me forward. And then like I was thinking at work, I had a really hard time setting goals for work. And like I really thought about, okay, what is really my goal? And my goal is really, I want to be the type of product manager who is like strategic, outcome oriented, and customer focused. And I turned it into an area or habit. And the habit is super simple. It's not anything specific, but when I sit down on to work on any task, the trigger is working on a task, any task. I think about how can I do this in a strategic, outcome oriented, and customer focused way. Okay, but main point, anything intangible, idea, problem, you can turn into something concrete by thinking about how do I turn this into a project or habit. That's it. That's my main message. Okay, looking at the time, I will pause here again to ask if that makes sense. Do you have any questions? I really don't want to talk for super long and like bore everyone to death. Is anything interesting, unclear? Cool. Okay. Then I will just keep going. Wait. All right. The last one. And this is really what I want to talk about, honestly. And why I decided not to like go super deep on craft. And that is the idea of definition. Because Para is super easy to set up. You create 4 folders: projects, areas, resources, archives. You're done, right? Where you're gonna have a hard time is like, for example, like I have like tons of notes here in my inbox, and where you're gonna have a hard time is when it's time to organize them. Like, what project is this? What area is this? Is it a resource? That is really the bitch. That is what's hard. And I think the main message I want to share here is it's really fucking hard. Taylor Pearson wrote an article, "The path to wealth and power is paved by definition." And if you click the notes, there's like some link to the article. But for me, the most difficult part of para is definition. And what do I mean by definition? So defining is, he gets this from some quote in like from the Fourth Economy. But he defines defining as like how our consciousness is structured, how our attention is directed, like what, like we have so much information, what can and should be done about all of this. And to make that simpler, for me, the act of turning ideas into projects and areas, that is the act of defining. And it's super valuable. Like, do not underestimate, like, I guess that like the main message is, it's super, number one, it's super valuable. Number two, it's fucking hard. Number three, it's here it says like Alan Cooper, there's a book, Figure It Out. And Alan Cooper, the author of like some design book, he said the challenge of making sense of oceans of information brought to us by digital technology is the truly significant task of our era. Yeah, and then regarding it being fucking hard, I give you two quotes from two like really unrelated books. One is from Lynchpin by Seth Godin. He says, like, we all claim we want freedom, we want choice, but really everywhere, in every corporation, in every country in the world, people are waiting to be told what to do. Like, I want Tiago to tell me where to put all these notes. Like, I want Tiago to tell me what should I do with all these tasks, you know? Like, I want someone to tell me, like, what the heck do I do with all of this? So yeah, like it's really hard, which is, you know, like you combine this idea of it being super valuable because it's like it's about uh, structuring consciousness, directing attention, like designing what like the world will look like through your ideas. It's really valuable, but it's also really hard. And then there's this book, In Order to Live. It's like a North Korea survivor. Like in North Korea, you have no choice. Well, according to the book, I've never been there. But according to the book, you have no choice. You wake up, you plant food, whatever, you eat it, you sleep. That's it. And she said when she like escaped to South Korea, she said, wow, freedom is so cruel and difficult. So many choices. I have to think so much. And sometimes, if not for the constant hunger, I feel like I would be better off in North Korea where all the thinking and choices were taken care of for her. And honestly, sometimes I feel like that. Um, yeah. And then Taylor gladly gave advice, which I found really, really good. And I hope it will help you as well. And he said survival doesn't, so like I think one of the things that make defining really hard is this concept of what is the right way to do this, what is the right way to organize this, what is the right way to define my project. And in the article, Taylor talks about there's no right way, like this is why it's defining, it's why it's so hard, it's up to you. Like survival doesn't care about what's right, it cares about getting things done. uh, so his advice was to get started, just define it wrong. And as long as you're defining it, you're moving forward. Because if you're like stuck, like thinking about what is the right way to do it, you're not moving forward. Whereas if you just defined it wrong, you move forward. So yeah, I think that is the message. I don't know. Like, can you tell me, like, what do you think of this idea? Is this like super common sense for you? Am I the only idiot who found this like enlightening? What do you think? Is this helpful for you as you think about like your para? Okay, I will
Very,
pause.
very helpful. It's wonderful, Chiara. Thank you so much. It's very, very helpful. You just pinpoint the thing what it's all about. Thank you so much. You're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you. I saw some people raise their hands. Are there others?
Hey, it's Colty. I had raised
Colty,
my hand.
yes.
Yeah, I want to just share it. Really, the definition and distilling is really hard and interesting. Like I was excited at the last live session. I was like, oh yeah, I know what my projects are. I know what they look like. But like filtering them through Para has really shown how they do fractalize and how things can really, you know, serve different dimensions of it. So even when I thought I had the most precise definition, I found I could find even more precision with it. So I really appreciate you sharing that it's really fucking hard because you just keep finding more stuff. So thanks for that.
Cool. Thanks so much, Colty, for sharing. Shirley.
Yeah, I resonate with what you say about defining. I think one of the things that came to mind is context. So like even just the example you gave about survival, you know, that is the way that you describe it, that temporal context is compressed. So your brain will process that horizon for where you want to have an outcome. And I think if somebody takes, like when you're defining your projects, if we were given the time constraint or a spatial constraint, our brain will move a certain way. So I think part of what also resonates with me, what you talk about habits, is, you know, we can create habits to kind of train our brain if we want to start to relate to time differently around making decisions, defining, you know, projects, areas, resources, that kind of self-imposed, I don't know if I want to call it goal or aspiration, but, you know, context is really important. I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what, so I'll probably think about this a little bit more, but that kept coming to mind as you were talking about survival. But I don't think temporal and spatial is very important. And we can kind of trick ourselves into creating frameworks and routines and habits around that.
Oh, thanks so much, Shirley, for sharing. Wonderful. Yeah, let me look in the chat, Claudia. Any questions that would be good to discuss here?
Just the one question, how do you manage templates and snippets in Craft? It's
Yeah.
from ready to go.
Yeah. Yes, I guess it's time to talk about the nitty-gritty. Nobody wants to talk about high level anymore. I'm just kidding. Okay. I do have some like nerdy, interesting things to show, don't worry. Unfortunately, Craft does not have templates yet, so I use Text Expander. And I have two templates that might be interesting for you. One is my metadata for book highlights. So I have ZMET, and that just adds these 5 things: full title, keywords, month created, month last updated. Short answer to your question, I use Text Expander. I can go into book highlights more if you want to go that route. Another template I have, so toggle, this is what I do. Move, turn it into bullets, right? This is book highlights. And then the other thing is people, network. I have ZNet. Why isn't it showing up? ZNet, no. Oh, okay, it doesn't work inside the toggle. That's curious. Yeah, so for, I only really have 2 templates, or 3, well, 2. So yeah, for book highlights and for people network. So when I meet someone new, I add these 5 things: their location, how we met, when we met, and this is just a month, like for example, May 2021. I add their LinkedIn and their website. I can show you some examples. I have a friend. Sorry, I'm sharing his name, but yeah, I was emailing him about when do you have the right reason to quit and stuff. Doesn't matter. But anyway, the point is I add these 5 metadata. It helps me, like, for example, when I look at my month, I just look at these backlinks and like see the books and people I engage with in a month. But anyway, the answer is I use Text Expander to create the template, and I use them in Craft.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Are there
Can I ask
other
another
questions?
question?
Sure, yes,
Yeah.
please.
So it's kind of a nuanced question with regard to relationships and para. Like, when is a person a personal project or a work project? When are they an area, a resource, an archive? Some people think it's maybe a little too personal to take notes on your friends. I think it helps. It just helps to balance a lot of things. So I know that like my relationships are good, but I would love if you could speak to some of that, both personally and professionally, how you can manage it that way.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I really struggled with this a lot. So you're definitely not alone. So my answer is whatever is most actionable. So I first think is this person a project? Okay, let me see a resource. When is a person a project? So a person is a project when I'm working with that person on the project. For example, Jamie, who is co-hosting here, and Claudia, who is co-hosting here. I am sorry, but right now you are part of my BASB mentor project. And that is because when I think about them, like I really just think about them as like in the context of building a second brain. So that's the first thing. If you can associate them with a certain project, for me, it's most helpful to put it there because it's super actionable. Like I know when I like looking for some info about Jamie, like I'm looking at the BASB 12 mentor folder area. So for me, I create a specific area for a person when I'm like, basically I have regular one-on-ones with, well, obviously not obviously, but my partner is an area. But in terms of work, the people I have regular one-on-ones with are an area. They're not here because they're in my Giant Swarm Google Docs, but for example, my architect partner, Luca, she is an area. The CTO, Timo, he is an area. Versus, for example, the other engineers in my team, I don't have one-on-ones with them. They're like in the Team Batman group. And then that's the name of our team. And then for the rest, where it's like I'm like they're just like Claudia and Jamie, after building a second brain, they will go to the network folder where it's just like people in general. And then I have this is kind of new for me, but in my metadata, I add how we met, and the how we met is really groups. So for example, on Frontiers, which is like my previous job, I have your groups, which is a tag. For example, and how we met on Frontiers. I tag it. I really right now use backlinks as backlinks, but also tags. Like I tag him on Frontiers so that when I look at who are the people I know in on Frontiers, I will see them. It's not populated here because long story. But does that answer your question, Colty?
Yeah, totally. Is it all right if I share an example in my life?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm outdoors and it's windy, so please let me know if it becomes uncomfortable at any point to listen to. But this fall, I was invited to a wedding. No +1s were extended. They're still keeping like, you know what, we're shaking off COVID. It's very tight. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm taking myself to this wedding. I want to look good for my date. So I want to have some buff arms by September. So that's a project. But next year or the year after that, one of my closest friends is getting hand fasted to their partner of like 10, maybe 11, 12 years at this point. So who I might take to that wedding ceremony is an area, because I don't currently have a partner who might accompany me to that intimate of a place. So I bring this up because while I'm sort of actively dating, I think that's a way you can start to think about even hypothetical, like self-relationship stuff or group relationship stuff along timelines. It's kind of a really specific example, but I liked the way that you divided it because I think keeping these things organized is part of how your brain works with your life. It's not only about like productivity should be able to expand to the way that you live and your lifestyle, I think. So those are just my specific examples. And I've been talking a lot, so thanks for letting me share.
Cool, thank you for sharing. Claudia, asking for your help again. Are there questions that would be cool to talk about?
I did not see questions, just
cool, okay.
probably.
All right, no worries. Melvin, please.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for talking about the big ideas, you know, the big issues. It's not all about procedures and craft or notion. That to me, the most important thing are really the big ideas you're talking about. And then we can take those and define it in our own way, in our own tools. But thank you for doing that. And also thank you for being organized in this mentor group with actually an agenda. I've been in mentor sessions that are like pinball machines, you know, they just bounce all over the place. But I really like your approach and I appreciate it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I need to put this into my smile file, but okay. Yeah, okay, reference, like in my last session, I talked about a smile file. It's a note where you capture stuff, nice stuff people say about you. But thank you, Melvin. Cool, no more questions? Because I'm gonna make you do some work if you don't have any more questions, so. All right.
I have a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to know with what the guy. I've got two questions actually. One for me is when it comes to taking in so much information that you probably want to use for later, that will be your areas and resources. How do you prevent yourself from kind of just going on a tangent of overloading so many different files and I think it's preventing yourself from just having a whole backlog of information, which I don't know, because I'm thinking sometimes you might have stuff that you just rarely touch on. So you're saving stuff and then is it unlikely that you use it? And I'm thinking sometimes it can be heavy data or heavy files and you're thinking, for me, it could take up a lot of space. And then the second question is, I think it's more, actually, I forgot the second question. We'll leave it as that one.
Okay, question, is your question about physical storage space, like in the app, or like mental space?
Physical storage space in the app.
Got it.
Because I think,
yeah, so one thing is I'm actually like the top user in Craft, like I'm the one pushing their block limit. That's one thing. I don't really think about it. So Craft doesn't have a quick web clipper like Evernote. So that's one thing I don't do. Like in order to actually like get random stuff from the internet to Craft, you need to copy and paste. So I think that's super helpful in not overloading the app. I think the main thing is I don't want anything I didn't pay attention to go to my second brain. So I don't ever like add like random articles I haven't read yet into my app, and that helps quite a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think it's like the reason why it kind of, yeah, because for me it's like, all right then, say I'm watching a YouTube clip and I haven't got time to watch the whole thing. Say it's probably, I don't know, 40 minutes, and I've got 10 minutes to spare. So I'm going to save that somewhere, and then I was just kind of figure out what's your process of, like, I know a few people say to do a weekly review. However, for me, if I've got like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, maybe it could be just me over consuming. I think it can be part of that. But how do you kind of say, okay then, because as say I'm going to have a review on the Saturday, but I'm still, I've saved something on Monday, then I've saved something on Tuesday, Wednesday, so forth. I'm thinking I can see how it kind of builds up a cluster, and I'm trying to reduce the overload. And I see with Pyrite, part of how it works is to have stuff that you can put aside to say later on grab onto it. So I think it's just, for me, I think it's still kind of the question for me of trying to how to manage getting back to that stuff, because sometimes it's the context that you remember it when you've looked at it, and then by the time you look back at it, you're thinking, what was I interested in this for? So yeah, just curious on that.
Yep. Yeah, so in terms of like watching things, I don't know if you remember, if you were in Tiago's session, because of that session, actually, I created a, like to watch folder in my Instapaper. And like when you save something in Instapaper, you can just move it to a to watch or a to listen folder. That's one thing. In terms of like stuff you're in the middle of, so what I would do is like I will create a note, like for example, video on whatever random thing, paste the video here, and I will say I left at like 4:53. That's all I do. And to be honest, I'm not super concerned about like like in terms of like information consumption, I really try super hard not to be beholden to any piece of information. I don't treat information as like precious little snowflakes. It's like if it's like on the first page of Google, I'll see it again in like 1 second. So I think Tiago talks about like information abundance and not scarcity. And I'm, yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Okay, we have 20 minutes left and I really want to do this. And again, I'm really scared, like people will not like it, but okay. So we talk about defining being fucking hard. Now let's do something really hard. Yeah, so next I want to do a breakout room for 10 minutes. And the idea is, uh, not sure if most of you have para set up already, and because from the people I've talked to, they have capture pretty good. What they have a hard time is like with the next step, like organizing them into para. So the exercise or task, whatever, in the breakout room is like move up to 10 notes, like in your inbox to like one of your para folders. So for example, me, I have like these many notes in my inbox. Move up to 10 of them into like the right project or area or resource folder. And along the way, if you find like you need to create a project, create the project folder. And the more interesting thing is when you encounter a hard to organize note, but important note, this is important, like just take a moment to pause, like brainstorm, like does this belong to a project I haven't defined yet? Maybe an area of responsibility I didn't realize I have. And then like decide for now where you're gonna put it. Like don't just leave it in your inbox. And like basically a practice, we're trying to practice here the idea of defining something wrong and moving forward.
We have here an interesting question by Daniel. What if we use Roam and don't have an inbox?
Do you organize? Would love for that person to talk aloud. But do you organize stuff in Rome into para or no?
Oh, Daniel here. I mean, I'm working on it. So I just now have in Rome the projects, areas, and resources as like buckets, and managed to do that. But I don't have. I mean, like it defaults to daily notes. So I guess I could go back over the last couple of weeks and just look for like random orphaned notes and see if they belong somewhere. That's a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, don't do it if it's like gonna be useless. Yeah. You can just hang out with your group and like, or do something you've been wanting to do for your second brain that you haven't gotten a chance to do yet. I will add that here. Or something you've been wanting to do for your second brain that you haven't yet. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna send everyone to breakout rooms for 10 minutes. Are there any last minute questions? Does it make sense? I will paste the instructions in chat right now. Oops, sorry, I pasted too much. But okay, no questions. Then I will send to breakout rooms. Where's that thing? Yeah, and then if you get stuck and you're like, I don't know where to put it, like feel free to chat. Like the point of the breakout rooms is to kind of share, talk to like some other people to kind of figure it out. All right. Wait, 10 minutes. Sounds good. Open all rooms. Hello, people who are here.
The good thing about breakout rooms with 5 participants, there is no one ending up alone.
Yeah, that's what. And it's easier to divide by 5.
Yes.
Yeah, it worked out better this way.
Yeah. Thanks for co-hosting. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I wish I could attend more.
Yes, that's a problem. I had such a beautiful plan.
Plan or plan?
A plan to attend Maria's and Ali's session, and so many sessions and so little time.
Yeah.
And now I jump in with co-hosting, and I learn a lot from people I never intended to visit the sessions.
Yeah. Jamie, have you
I
been
agree.
attending a lot?
On and off, yes. Just
For mentors, if I can ask. This is Ajinkya here.
Yeah, hello.
Yes. So I've been doing second brain for more than, I would say, 6-7 months. So it's not my first time. I just want to ask about your project throughput. How has building this second brain helped your project throughput? Because I think that's what is the most quantifiable number, right? So I would love to hear some effect you observed in your life.
Yeah. Maybe I should answer that later. But what do you mean by project throughput?
So Tiago kind of like has small projects and he finishes them on weekly basis. Or all of this note first when we make a project list and limit the scope of the project so that it can be finished sooner. So that's the aim. So I was just curious, how much is the throughput of your projects after you started this second brain system.
Got it. Yeah, okay, I can answer it now, but I also want to answer it later. Yeah, maybe the best way, I definitely got better at definition or defining projects. Like I really like the definition of a project being something you need multiple sessions on. Wait, let me see. What is the effect? I'm not sure about the speed of completing projects.
Before and after, so simple, before any weight loss diet, people have photos of before and after. So I just want before second brain and after second brain.
I'm not sure if I got faster at completing projects. because I think what I got better at is actually creating projects and finishing them, because before they were all like just tasks somewhere. So technically I didn't have a project I needed to finish. I just didn't have a project. So it's like I think my life got richer because I was able to define these projects and break them down into small tasks or smaller projects. But
Okay.
I'm not sure if I got faster at completing projects. I think I got better at making my like intangible desires and wants more tangible and then completing that.
And Claudia and Jamie, how about you?
Sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't get your question because I was looking at the breakout rooms.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I'll repeat. So before second brain and after implementing second brain, what difference you observe in the projects you complete and the impact you have in your personal or work life? So,
I have far too many projects before BASB, and I realized that I have defined projects as ideas as projects which weren't projects. So I like the idea of Chiara of defining things properly. And this is the main difference between before BASB and post BASB.
okay.
Having more clarity on projects.
I don't think I'm faster. I like Chiara saying, I don't think I can get faster at projects because the time I have is the time I have. You have 24 hours. So I think if I were to measure it, and I somewhat do this, is like, how has my business, like, am I producing? Yes, like I can quantify it because now I know how many things I'm producing as opposed to before. I could put it in a spreadsheet, like before I was producing X, now I'm doing X, Y, Z, and I could measure it in terms of output of the success of my business, whether that's financial, right? Like now, and I relate that to my second brain.
What do you think the approximate number is? 10%, 20% improvement? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I probably, if we were to talk income, I probably tripled my income based on productivity.
Oh, wow. Triple, not just 30%. Okay, nice.
No, I was hitting a point where I was very overwhelmed, right?
Oh.
So now you focus, I think I thought about priorities, and I'm getting to another point, which is what Chiara was talking about. And I'm hesitant to share with like the whole defining thing just because I didn't know how to express it, because I'm currently working on my superhuman slit inboxes, which is funny because it came up yesterday too. And that's why I hesitated to share, and I couldn't really express it because I'm in the point of relabeling my split inboxes because they no longer work. Like I have too many. So now I was redefining everything so there's less. And I'm currently doing that as you were talking about it, Chiara. So it was interesting because I think this new way will help me, and it's not projects and areas, it's a way of approach. So, I mean, that's another before or after. I should have taken a screenshot actually of my before and after.
I work as a trainer and my majority of job is information consumption. So I was really bad at producing. And this time, so this is my second cohort. First cohort I actually did on my friends, we did it together. So now I was like officially as a student. And now I do want to work on the producing part. And I really admire so many people here have such a prolific output. It's just amazing to see people who are doing such a incredible output. So I hope I can do that. And that's why I asked this question. I want to know that I can also produce, and I want to reach the stage, maybe a quarter or something.
Yeah. And I think it's not about reaching any stage for me. It's like being part of something big. Like we're all like trying to move everyone forward. That's how I see
Right.
it.
Yeah, I
So
just love the how simple the system is. The para and the whole concept. It's incredible.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. 13 seconds. So they didn't go like you can go back right within 1 minute. So I'm guessing they're having fun. Close. Ah, no. All participants have been given 60 seconds. Okay, they didn't have a choice. Damn it. Oh, I see Jamie's dog. I want to see closer. I wish I have a dog. I feel like if I have a dog, people will like my sessions more.
I think they like them even without a dog. But
Thanks.
We can always borrow you one, so at least for the course.
Woof, woof.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. I think people are back. How was it? Okay, I know we have 3 minutes left on the hour. But would love to see, so either raise your hand or put in the chat what's one note you have that's hard to organize, and where did you end up moving it to, and kind of share your thought process. That might be too much to put in the chat, but let's try. And if anyone is like wants to share, please raise your hand. Jules.
Hi. So this isn't answering your question, but I just have a really big win that I kind of wanted to celebrate that's in regards to this. So I have notoriously in the past had like literally like 50 browsers a day, 50 tabs open on my browser every day. Because when I'm in sessions or I come across something and somebody name drops someone or a new tool, I'll just quickly type that into Google and then I have that to go back to. But it would be up for months on end, and you know it would take me so long to get back to a tab, and then I'd be like, oh, what was that all about? So now I actually have a flow in my my workflow is to, at the end of the day, I just very quickly will go to the tab and see if it's actually something, right, that resonates with me. And then if it does, then I draw it into my para and I'll just save a bookmark there. I use Notion, so it's really easy to create a bookmark there. But yeah, I just thought I would share that felt like a huge win this week.
Cool, congrats. I'm super happy for you. That's a really big step in anyone's life, you know, like what should I do with this thousands of tabs? It's really huge. Congrats. Um, anyone wants to share like what's a hard to organize note that they had? Melvin?
Yeah, one of the challenges that I've given myself is to take the 12 questions that we were asked to write earlier in the course and go through those 12 questions and turn them into areas that then I could add to over time. And those areas in turn might define projects for me that I want to get done. So that's the challenge I'm working on now, taking the 12 questions and trying to find areas in them that over time may become various projects.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Actually, so now we're at the end of the hour, but I will hang out for 15 to 30 minutes if you're happy to stay and chat. I do want to answer Omar's question. How do you define your areas? I really do not like creating obligations for myself if unnecessary. So it's really bottom up for me. So for example, let me give an example. Like I would think of random things to do. This is not a good example. Okay, here, like I have here a thing. Okay, my answer is I do it bottom up. Like I think of something, oh, I need to do that. And then I put it into things, which is my to-do app. And I think about, I need to review Luka's presentation. What project or area is this? So in this case, I have no project that I'm working on. But I'm thinking like where will future me look for these tasks? And I think actually future me will look for this task when I'm thinking about Lukash. So I will turn this task, I will create a Lukash area and then move this task to that area. But the answer is bottom up. I create a task. I think about, is there an area associated, is there a project, and then is there an area associated with it? And then same with notes. Let me see if I have an area that I want to create. There's nothing. These are all resources and projects. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a good example right now, but I do it bottom up basically. Like I have a task or a note, and then I think about, is there a project I want to do, or is it an area? Yeah, that's it for the official session. Now we're just hanging out. If you have any questions, anything you want to share, anything you want to see.
I have hi, this is Shama. I have a question for you.
Okay.
How was your experience with BASB, the time when you took it? How was it for you? Can you share with us? How did you process, and just please share your experience?
Yeah, sure. So I took BASB in 2018. It was actually a self-paced course. It's just like recorded videos, live sessions, and that's how I took it. And really my experience was just reading that like long ass series on Para, and then I just implemented it. Meaning I just created like folders, and then I like turned like tasks and notes into projects and areas. That was my experience. It was really transformative because it felt like however much information comes at me, I always know what to do with it and later how to retrieve it. It's the transformation is really knowing a place for everything. And maybe it would be helpful to share, I forgot, someone asked while you were in breakout sessions, like how like how did my project throughput change because of building a second brain? Like did I make projects smaller and finish them faster? I didn't. What building a second brain helped me do is turn intangible things like I want to learn product, or I want to I want to invest in crypto, or I want to run. It helped me turn these like vague things into either projects or habits, and it's really not about doing the things I'm already doing faster. For me, it's about doing stuff that I didn't think I could do before. So it's really expanded what I could do instead of made me faster in smaller things. That's kind of like my experience with building a second brain. Does that answer your question, Shama?
Yeah, thank you very much. And you didn't have to choose a tool while you did the BA. You did that at that time, only the reading, not choosing tool, or
Tool.
because now we have a capture tool, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it really changes. I mean, when I took it, I was using Evernote and then Bear and then Obsidian and then Notion. Like I use every tool out there. So, and I think most people here will do that as well. So
Yeah,
it's kind of supernatural.
Yeah, because right now I'm not ready to choose a tool. I'm just exploring everything, every tool, you know. So I'm not in a hurry to choose a tool. So I'm satisfied with using apps, the notes on my app on my MacBook, and that's it.
My goodness, I am so jealous of you, and really my advice for everyone, if you find something that works for you, stay with it. That's really the best situation to be in.
And also I want to keep it simple because I want to have a system that I can put a minimum time, energy for maximum output.
Yep.
Because I'm busy with other projects in my life, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Mang.
Hey, Chiara.
Shama is simple because otherwise you have to say Taemin. It's a very small, complicated. It's my Vietnamese name. So I've been living in Canada for almost 40 years and no one pronounced my name correctly. That's why I ask now people to call me Shama. It's easier.
Nice,
Thank
love
you.
it. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say I really like the quotes. I think people tend to really think about the details about the tools. So the how, but I think the why we are doing this BASB journey is, I think, is more important than the how. So I really like the high level overview. And if you know your why, then the how will fit, I think. It will flow, if that makes sense. I think that was a really nice addition to the session. Thanks for that.
Thank you. I'm glad it was helpful and not just like some vague, lofty thing. Shirley, you share something in the chat. Wanna talk? I'm putting you on the spot now.
Yeah, I'll practice. I just was saying, you know, I was using the 10 minutes I was like, oh, let me check my archive and clean it out, or just start ditching, you know, deleting things because it feels good. And then I came across something and I was like purposely moving an essay I wrote into my areas. I have like 5 distinct areas in my parasystem. And it made me think about just reviving the story as something that I could have present at like an open mic or something. So I just immediately moved it into projects and created a storytelling thing, because I've done some of that in person, and then I started doing some of it on Zoom, you know, during the shelter in place, and I'm excited about getting back out in public space. And now it's also making me think about looking at my areas and, and archives a little bit differently. If there are projects that I already have where I might pair, like, maybe there's subtasks or something like that. I don't know yet, but yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, this is like another example where it really expands what we can do in the world. Thank you. Anybody else? Mang, are you still raising your hand? And Melvin? Nope.
Yeah, okay. So I have a quick comment too. And it's on the higher level. One of the things that I'm trying to use my notes for and my second brain that I'm building is to enable me to have conversations with myself. So if I'm trying to figure something out, as you were talking earlier, really doing the hard part of defining things, it really helps me if I have something to work off of. And so I try to look for things in my notes, written notes or second brain notes that I can read that helps me have a conversation with myself. Mm-hmm. And out of that conversation, sometimes unexpected things come that I wasn't expecting, and then I write those down. So it's using the digital information on a personal level to have a conversation to try to define things in the way you were talking about earlier. That's in general, that's what I'm trying to do now with this stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know if it will like take too long. I would love to hear like an example of a recent conversation you had with yourself. And is that a project? Is that an area? Which project or area is it?
It's actually for both. So if I'm trying to figure out, I live in Northern California. We have great fire danger now, year after year. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I are trying to figure out where we want to live. Do we want to live here or move somewhere else? So I could do all that in my mind, but instead I'm calling people, having conversations with them, taking notes, looking for people who live in the Pacific Northwest, asking them about their ideas, taking notes on maps, doing all this kind of research so that I can have a better conversation with myself about where do you want to live. So the research and the note taking and the calls all help me do that.
Got it. Perfect. Yeah, and on this, actually, I'm quite obsessed with leveraging every conversation. So something I like to do, like I have a lot of blog posts and a lot of them are just transcribed conversations. For example, my point is when I have this kind of project, like where to move or something, and I'll have like lots of calls with people, I like to because while I'm talking to someone on the phone, I'm taking notes, and I usually turn those into blog posts, like some light editing. Anyway, the point is you could capture that and like turn it into a blog post. Like that's really the main point. And I do this all the time. For example, recently I like want to move a product manager job to like productivity tools, and I had an idea to like contact 10 people on LinkedIn who are doing product for like productivity tools, and like ask them, like I thought of 3 questions I want to ask, like what's the most difficult part, like what's something different about managing a product to productivity product, blah blah blah. And my idea was to publish a blog post so that I could impress employers with the knowledge that other people share with me, like pass their credibility onto me. Sorry, I am rambling, but basically turn conversations into blog posts is something I like to do.
The other thing I picked up along the way, I think it was from actually a Russian architect. I was reading something about her life, and on the idea of conversation, for her, just the act of writing something down. You have a blank piece of paper, something's on your mind, you're thinking about. Just the idea of writing something down starts to trigger the process of having a conversation with yourself. And then you write some other things down, and on it goes. And in Rome, they would probably say, well, this is an example of network thinking, but I'm just doing it on a piece of paper. And the more I write down, the more the conversation grows. But for this particular person, she said the important thing is to write something down to get the conversation started, whatever the topic is. And I just find that useful.
Cool. Thank you. Email tips. There's question on email tips. Okay, I feel like we talk so much high level now. I really want to show specific things, so I'm happy to show email tips. Yesterday, I attended session from Anna, and I already forgot the name of the tool. What is the name of this tool? Inbox when ready for Gmail. It turns your inbox into like this, so you could just open your email and just have the compose thing. That was really good. I really like it. But if you click here, you can show inbox, and I don't have Para in my Gmail, but I don't know if you know this, GTD for Gmail. You can Google GTD for Gmail. It's like one of the first things that show up, but it's basically using labels to like split your inbox. So here, the blue information is just reference information. The question marks is I'm waiting for people on, and these are like to-dos. That's one tip, GTD for Gmail. Second tip is the inbox when ready for Gmail. And another thing that's been really helpful is, do you know in Gmail, you could add a plus sign? Like, for example, my email is like chiara@gmail.com. You could have like unlimited inboxes or email addresses by adding the plus sign. For example, Chiara plus news@gmail.com will go to my inbox. So I have that here, Chiara plus newsletters. And that's what I use I use the dot here. But basically, I use a different email address, and that's what I use to sign up for newsletters. And then I add a filter for newsletters. And oh my goodness, I have so many email addresses signed up to Tiago. Like I get 4 at a time. But yeah, basically use a separate email address, filter them, the newsletters, so that I just browse them when I have time. They don't clutter my inbox, but some of them still get in. But it's better than having to process them all. That's it. That's my tip. Create a separate email address and then filter them into a folder. You can just Google how to like unlimited Gmail inbox or email address or something. You'll find it. Anybody have anything? Monica, hello, you're here. It's super late your time. Thank you for being here. Jaros?
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's have Jaros go
Okay,
first,
cool.
and then
Yes.
I'll go. Yeah.
Thank you. I wonder how you yourself go about picking the right tooling. Whether it's because like I'm also hopping from tool to tool, and sometimes it's very difficult to make that decision, right? Because there's a lot of trade-offs, and you try to find something that fits you. At the same time, you don't know whether I would say every time you do that migration, it's pain in the ass. So you'd like to minimize it, right? And to make the good choice as soon as possible. So how you go about finding the fit between the tool and how you think and the way you go about things.
Oh, that's a super hard question. Yeah, I mean, like everyone else, I'm also very curious. I tend to try things. I think what I do is I try an app for 1 to 2 weeks and see how it works for me. I will never, or not anymore. I used to, but not anymore. I'm not gonna watch some YouTube video saying someone saying this is the best thing ever, and I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I'm decided migrating everything today, this weekend. I don't do that anymore. I actually work with the tool for 1 to 2 weeks and see if it works for me. And I almost never migrate everything at the same time anymore. I do just-in-time migration. I only, like, when I think of a note that I want to reference, I move that one by one. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so basically try it for 1 to 2 weeks in real life and don't migrate everything immediately. Monica.
Yeah, so I one of the things that I save the most that I think is just like really hard to retrieve later on are like tweets by people. And the hardest thing that like I'm very self-aware of my resonance. So I will find a tweet that like really speaks to me and like, oh, you know, this is, I want to keep this. I just don't know where the heck to save it. So I have my Readwise with like hundreds and hundreds of tweets that and then I will like tag them, but then like I will literally have some tags that are like, wow, like, you know, just because I don't have a name for it.
Let's do an example. Like open your Readwise. Let's pick
So
a tweet.
I just wanted to show you here. And if you can give me sharing rights.
Yes, I am the Zoom god. How to okay, all participants. Can you try now? Does it work?
Yeah, now it works. Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to show you some examples. So, oh, I don't know how to make it so you can see the, I don't know if you can see. So for example, yeah, like there is I'm trying to learn about Alfred because I think I'm really underutilizing it. And I knew this guy who had created something to teach about like workflows with Alfred. So so I save, you know, like the YouTube video, and I'm saving this and I'm just putting Alfred. So like later, if I, you know, I can go to Readwise dashboard and like search for Alfred. But then, and then like things like this, would I need to like put it in my task or like Instapaper or, you know, so I get like confused and I would just put it on Readwise. Like, so that sort of little friction of like, okay, what do I do now? I like, for example, this guy, somebody that talks about how investing in insurance is like super safe. And I have a client who is in private equity and, you know, who buys maybe like distressed assets or whatever. Like, I wanted to flag this to my client, but then like, do I save it in that person's like client folder? But then like I want to keep it, you know, in one place, and then from there to sort it. Like, I don't know, like I don't know if that makes sense, like my confusion with the tweets that I resonate with and are useful, but then I don't know how to like filter and put it where.
Yeah. And I noticed you were saying, what is the right place to put this? And the answer is there is no right place.
Okay.
So for example, and the question is, where can I put this such that future me can retrieve it later,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So for the insurance, where do you think you should put it? Where can you put it? Such that you will know to retrieve it later.
So this is yeah, I don't know. I just left it here with a tag. But then I don't know if that's the best solution.
Yeah.
Do you guys
So-
save any tweets? Anybody, like, what do you guys do with tweets, or does anybody save tweets?
Anyone feel free to answer.
No, nobody.
Yeah, Monica, I save tweets, but I review them immediately because they could get
Yeah.
through Readwise. So then I label them. I already have the output in mind of why I'm saving them. So they're tagged at on Readwise, and then I process them. So I kind of go through the tweets much faster. Otherwise,
So you
it
process
can
them
be a
from
mess.
Readwise.
Yeah,
Okay.
but based on output, like it'll be labeled, it'll be tagged newsletter, blog, or something like that, or note to self might be, but I don't have a lot of those that are note to self because I think maybe they end up somewhere, but they're usually labeled based on output.
Jamie, like when
or
you
something I
have
do.
it from the Readwise, so like when you have the Readwise dashboard, do you like directly kind of like physically move the note to like the bucket that, or you just tag it?
I tag it for myself, so I have Evernote and Readwise open. And then because Evernote doesn't sync the tags, and I've been trying to I like tweet them and see if they can do that. But then I just move the notes, the tweets that are saved individually in the proper notebook.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. That's like super helpful. You have no idea. Okay.
Nice. Love it.
Thank you.
Whew, Jamie,
that,
you
like
just
staying
said
until 4:30 in the morning was worth it. Thank you, Jamie.
perfect.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Just need to make sure Jamie is on in all my future sessions. 3 minutes left. Who wants to go next? Who wants to be the finale? No pressure.
Question for you.
Okay.
I think I'm going backwards to capture, but the conversation today is kind of leading me there. And first off, just thank you. It's been a great session. I would echo that, put that in your smile folder. But the definition discussion was really a lot of light bulbs that went off there. I want to go back and revisit that. And so it made me think kind of, that's why I'm going back a step, is that there's all these tools like Roam, Obsidian, Craft, Evernote, Instapaper, Readwise, et cetera. And I feel like at least for me, I feel like I'm hearing more about the tools and not the meta level above that. Like, what are those tools for? Like, here's the activities. Like, and I saw what's making me think about this is in one of your notes, you showed like notes, things for tasks, et cetera. But I think it would be helpful for me, at least in the definition thing, to go back and think through those verticals of like, what are the areas I'm trying to capture? And then what the tools are. Instead, I think it's backwards. Like I'm thinking about the tools and not really organically like what they're actually supposed to serve,
Exactly.
And having a for how that flows. And maybe I've missed that somewhere in like the last session, but because since we're doing the sea of code first, but I just was curious as to how you think about that, because it looked like you had done some of that there in your note.
Do what? How to capture such that they're
I'm
like towards.
I'm still trying to define it myself, but basically define, for lack of a better word, the verticals of what you're trying to capture, so that if I want to go back and find something, not only do I have to go back and look in the different parent categories, but for everything I do that I clip from the web, is it going to go to Instapaper? Is it going to go to Evernote? Like, how do you figure out the different categories of what you're trying to go back for your future self and capture, so that you know where to look? Does it make sense? Am I saying it clearly?
No, can you please rephrase it one more time?
Okay, and I apologize because I know it's not really clear in my mind either exactly how to articulate this. But I guess what I'm looking for is kind of the meta level above the tools. So like what I need to, maybe everyone has to do this for themselves, but it seems like it would be a kind of a common thing. Like for all notes, you use craft. For all tasks, you use things.
Yes.
For all web clipping, well, is there any type of web clipping that is not captured by Evernote? Hypothetically, like for Instapaper, what's the difference between Instapaper and Evernote? What are you really trying to do there? So instead of having a kind of an unorganized collection of tools, not really knowing how to go down and pull back up because they don't really relate to each other well, how do you organize those things together? So does that make any sense?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I'll try to answer it. I don't know if it's what you're looking for, but it's very outcome oriented, either outcome or curiosity oriented. So I am happy to capture anything that sparks my curiosity. I have 700 books in my Readwise, and I capture them. And like I will like save stuff in Instapaper and read them. But what drives them is these projects that I'm trying to move forward and these habits that I'm trying to build. Or like in area, it's like the identity I'm trying to build. The rest are resources, and I kind of don't really care about resources. I'll chuck them all into the resources folder. What's really important for me is the information. Like if I'm really interested in something, like I read some book, is there some project I could do to really move my life forward in this like topic? I'm not answering your question, but I try to have like, if it's really important to me, I try to have an outcome that I want to move forward. That's it. And then the rest is like, okay, that's interesting. Put it into resources folder.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, you can message me in Circle. I'll try to.
I'm not asking the question properly, but I think it does give me food for thought to go back and think through the kind of meta architecture of what these different tools relate to each other. Because there's some overlap and like which ones do you use for what? You know what I mean? Like Evernote can do a lot of things. So what does it do? You know what I mean? Like carving up the roles that each one fills. But anyways,
okay,
I can work on that. Thank you.
Okay, one last question, and then we should go. Jairus, do you have
I just
a question?
wanted to follow up. So not a question, maybe
Okay.
to what Jim asked about. I think that one part is definitely the outcome of what you're trying to achieve, and that outcome could be even defining granularly what is like in what way you were learning, right? Because each of those platforms, be it Instapaper or Readwise, have a different workflow that might or might not work on you, depending on how you prefer to consume information. So the outcome is the first. Second, I would say is what you want to capture and how well that tool actually supports that, right? So there's a lot of tools going around. So for me, I think that the Readwise is amazing because I'm just a Kindle person, and it was kind of mind blowing to see that it just scratches the surface of what I need, and I want to dig deeper. And maybe I will just leave Instapaper because I'm not much into kind of saving bookmarks and whatnot. And so like trying to build it around how you work and what you need to capture in what way, I think would be a good food for thought when you are looking at those functionalities and making a comparison and related to the outcome and how it is best supported by how that tool lets you organize or how that tool lets you capture.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jairus. And I think that is a good ending to this session. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying so long. I really appreciate your time and attention. I hope this was helpful, and see you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.